You've tuned into Unpause Your Life with Dr. Callie Estes. Your access to success strategies and more to help you move onward and upward with your life. Listen in each week as she interviews others who have really taken their essence to the next level and truly unpaused their life. Now here's your host, Dr. Callie Estes.
Hey everyone, welcome to the show. This is Dr. Callie Estes, and I am founder of the Addictions Academy, the Addictions Coach, and Rehab Rescue. Welcome to Unpause Your Life. This is a great podcast where we showcase people who have done something extraordinary with their life. I welcome you, and I hope you enjoy all of our guests.
On my way, found a reason to wake up another day.
Before we get started, let's hear this short message from one of my supporters.
All the things that you won't do.
Did you know 81% of Americans would like to become a published author? Chances are you might be one of them. What's stopping you? Writing and publishing a book takes a lot of work and is expensive, right? Well, not anymore. For your next book project, or even your first, team up with Hassle-Free Books. They make it so easy to become an author. They remove all of the fuss and struggle and make it smooth and simple. And it's far more affordable than you could ever imagine. Go to hasslefreebooks.com and use promo code UNPAUSE to receive a 10% discount off of any book project. Get started right away and become a published author in as little as 45 days. For your free 1-hour book formula guide, which will show you just how painless it can be to become an author, head to hasslefreebooks.com today.
All right. Thanks again for joining me. Let's get started with today's show.
Took a walk down the dark road where they said that I shouldn't go. I knew the dangers of...
Welcome to Unpause Your Life with Dr. Callie Estes, the Addictions Coach and the Addictions Academy. I have on a very special guest. Todd, known as the Z-Man, Zalkins, is with us today. And after losing his friend Bradley Nowell to a heroin overdose, Todd, the Z-Man, fights for his life in what will become the worst drug crisis in American history, the opioid epidemic. Against all odds, Todd is able to break a 17-year addiction to prescription painkillers and dedicate his life to helping others who struggle with addiction. In a twist of fate, Todd is presented with an opportunity to help Bradley Nowell's son, Jacob, battle his own addiction with drugs and alcohol. A story of redemption and recovery, The Long Way Back shatters the stigma associated with prescription painkiller addiction and offers a strong message of hope and awareness. Welcome, Z-Man. How are you?
Hey, I'm doing great, Dr. Callie. Can I call you Dr. Callie? Is that how you prefer it?
Honey, you can call me anything you want. I don't care.
It's a pleasure to be here with you. Thank you for having me on.
I'm glad you're with us. So tell me about this film you've got going on, because this sounds really interesting.
Certainly. The film is called The Long Way Back. And first off, it'll be, you can watch it in your own living room starting on October 17th on Amazon worldwide and, of course, iTunes. The film covers my relationship with the guys in Sublime, whom I grew up with here in Long Beach. And I was unfortunately up there in San Francisco, California, when Brad passed away from a heroin overdose. And you know, at the time, I was about 6 years into my painkiller addiction, and it was a heartbreaking moment when I came to find that Brad had tried to call me at about 4 a.m. just prior to his untimely overdose, and he passed away from the drug of heroin. And you know, I really beat myself up for a number of years, and my addiction spiraled deeper and deeper, ultimately almost dying from OxyContin. And I almost lost my life to the addiction. And years later, I never knew I was going to become an interventionist and a drug and alcohol counselor here in California. And Jacob, who was Bradley's son, was only 11 months old when Bradley passed away. And we all loved Bradley very much. And we loved Jacob. We loved his wife, Troy. And we wanted to look after that little boy. And later on in life, he too, became alcoholic and was suffering in his own way. And it was just a huge, huge moment in my life when the grandfather, who's known as Papa Nowell, reached out to me and he said word for word or verbatim, he said, "I can't go through this again." He says, "Can you help us?" And I just dropped what I was doing and we rallied around and we did what we do, which is to help another man. And it's been just a godsend to me.
So what was it like to be in active addiction and have your friend in active addiction and watch that happen? Did you feel helpless? Did you feel hopeless? Did it turn you, into more of an addict? Did you spiral out of control? What happened at that point?
That's a great question. I had no coping skills. I think when he passed, I was in my late 20s. And as a functioning addict at the time, I was very immature emotionally, and I had very, very, very little coping mechanisms and skills for life. And so that being said, I certainly dove deeper into my addiction. And I think what triggered it even more, Dr. Callie, was that having the knowledge that my friend had reached out to me just to talk and not even knowing what he was reaching out to me for. I wasn't an IV heroin user. And so it wasn't like he was calling to say, "Hey, Z-Man, come over and shoot dope with me." So you ask those questions to yourself. What was my friend calling for? Was he calling just to hang out? Was he lonely? Was he just wanting a friend to be with him? And so inside of my own head, I think I just kind of slaughtered myself internally, thinking maybe I could have been there for my friend. And that being said, you ride the rails on that. And so I tortured myself, and drug addiction got a hold of me worse and worse. And I took more and more of the drug and chasing doctors and forging prescriptions. And I went much bigger and bigger.
Now, you said forging prescriptions. Did you ever get caught doing that?
I did not. I owned an insurance brokerage of all things. I'm in a punk band and playing, 100 plus gigs a year. And I'm this fat, sweaty guy. And, I actually made a pretty good living for a number of years, kind of living this pseudo life where I was always driven to make enough bucks so I didn't have to, go the prison route, and having to rob people and do all these things that a drug addict has to do. So I had this multifaceted life. And truth be told, I'm scared to death of needles. If I wasn't scared of needles, I'd be tatted up like a lot of my friends are. But anyway.
You said something very important. You said you're scared of needles. And that's so unique.
It stems from a couple of things. I had some childhood trauma from the mid 70s from a doctor that used a really large needle on me, and it stuck with me. It was a traumatic situation. And then later on, when I had a surgery, I had a combination of a catheter situation and an IV where just a nurse just battered me trying to find a vein. And simply put, I'm scared of needles, and I'm not ashamed to admit it. I'm a pussy when it comes to needles. And if you bring a needle near me, it's got to be a pediatric needle, and the light's got to be turned dim. I'll start to shake. I'm just super scared. And if anyone wants to tease me about it, I'll throw you through a freaking window.
In 21 years of me doing this, I've only met one other person that was afraid of needles and didn't become an IV drug user because of that. And that's my husband. And he is tatted all over the place. So it's very interesting that you said that. That was your stopping point. Now, when you do interventions, do you run into people that say to you, I snort oxy, I smoke oxy, but I would never put a needle in my arm? Are you seeing that?
Oh, yeah. I do. And I have run into that during several interventions, because there's a lot of people who've chosen just to either smoke heroin or snort heroin. Now, to come back to that point, just because I wasn't an IV heroin user does not mean I didn't, believe me when I say, I ramped up my opiate usage to a maximum level. I mean, I was taking 400 OxyContin, 80 milligrams a month.
Oh, my God.
So I was taking like 16 to 18 of those a day. And I was, on top of that, 2 to 3, 800 micrograms of fentanyl sticks a day, 12 to 14 Norcos a day, and smoking heroin on top of it. I wasn't effing around. And this is to the full level. Now, There's not a lot of people, and this is not some badge or cool factor here, Dr. Callie. I'm not trying to say, hey, look at how gnarly I was. You got to remember, I was on this stuff for a long time. I wasn't on it a couple of years. I had a bunch of surgeries. I had surgeries that I didn't need. I chased and I chased and I sought and I sought. And this was a full-time gig for me. I was fully owned by this drug. I forged prescriptions. I couldn't get away from it. And my disease progressed to a point where I had to have more and more of this stuff. And I was on a bunch of it. And I hated myself. I hated myself for a long time.
So how did you get onto the drugs? Did you pick them up on your own, or were you prescribed by a doctor?
Yeah, it actually started for me in 1989. I was going to college down in San Diego, and I was working construction, and I took a really gnarly fall, and I herniated 2 discs in my lower back, and this is what prompted it all. And obviously, this is way before anything was even suggestive of a painkiller epidemic. In fact, the only thing prescribed at the time was Vicodin, and the back surgery took place very quickly thereafter. In fact, the back surgery was in February of 1990. The injury was in late 1989. And I had never taken a painkiller in my life. I'd never taken an opiate in my life. You know, I drank alcohol, I did cocaine, and something magical happened with that drug. This warmth, this blanket, this sensation was so magical to me that something in my mind said, oh my gosh, some new doors opened. Something was just so intense. I was like, okay, let's do more of this.
So what happened when you went back to the doctor and asked for more? How were you treated there?
There wasn't an issue of asking the doctor for more. At the time, the back surgery in this day and age, back in 1990, I had what I called a Disneyland e-ticket. So I was carved up like a Thanksgiving turkey for this radical surgery. So for the first couple of years, getting prescription narcotics was no problem. Get your big pen out. How many do you need? How much pain are you in? Oh, I'm in a lot of pain. I'm in a lot of pain, doc. I hurt all the time. Okay. 200, 300, 400 Vicodins a month. What's the problem? There's no problem. There wasn't a problem because I was in a lot of pain. See, getting the drugs at that particular time was a non-issue because I've got this 8-inch scar on my back. I've got sciatic pain because I had an unsuccessful surgery, Dr. Callie, and I'm in pain, okay? I have got what you call, forget about subjective complaints. I have objective findings. I have legitimate medical necessity for the drug. Big difference. Big difference than, I have a muscle spasm or I've got a little bit of a knee pain. I have a legitimate objective finding. MRIs proved it. Legitimate. I still have these nerve findings, which, you know what? I could have these things the rest of my life.
So you were treated like a chronic pain client. You're going to probably be on this for the rest of your life. Let's just keep you comfortable.
Yes, I can today. Fast forward all these years, I could go get a new MRI picture, Dr. Callie. And if I wanted to go to a pain specialist, I could get right back on either Opana, Oxycontin, fentanyl, whatever I need if necessary. I could get right back in black if I wanted to and take that freaking prescription and sell for $20,000 a month.
So let's talk about that. Let's talk about your mindset. Tell me what shifted from that person that would go to the doctor and say, I'm in the most horrible pain possible. Give me the maximum amount of pain medication to where you are now. Tell me about your mindset.
Oh my gosh. Well, hold on. A lot had to happen, Dr. Callie, from 1990 to where I am now. I mean, I had to suffer tremendously with regards to the progression of the addiction to a point where the drug, let's cover that for a second. The drugs, first off, had to stop working. Okay. The drugs stopped working. I was in a state of complete desperation to the umpteenth degree. Okay. That I could not measure. And I could not speak in complete sentences. I was starting to become delusional. And this is in late 2006 before I checked into a hospital in 2007. So when I came into recovery in 2007, dying of drug addiction and my internal organs are starting to fail, I wasn't even sure if I could even get clean and sober. But I managed to, obviously that's why we're talking, and I'm grateful for every bit of that. The mindset very, very slowly changed because I started to learn more about my condition. And I have a fatal illness. And I've learned through my own recovery and through people who know a lot more than me that if I choose to pick up and use that drug again, then I'm going to die. I will set the cycle in motion again. If I pick up one Vicodin, one beer, one narcotic again, it'll turn that light switch on, and I don't have the power to turn it off, and I'm going to die. And that's a very healthy way for me to look. That's a healthy mindset, Dr. Callie. For a guy like me, I don't ever want to go back to being in that dark San Clemente home again where I've got piles of powder, piles of cocaine, jars of OxyContin, watching Dog the Bounty Hunter with frozen yogurt and granola, and I'm crying and slobbering, and my mom is worried about me.
You made that sound very easy. Was that one attempt at getting sober, or did you have multiple attempts with failure?
Okay, that's a twofold question. My getting sober, Dr. Callie, was the most tumultuous, the gnarliest, rockiest, most difficult, most painful thing that I've ever walked through in my life. I didn't sleep for my first 44 days in my recovery. 44 days, I did not sleep. I shook physically for almost 9 months. My physical detox lasted a little more than a year. My post-acute withdrawal symptoms lasted about 15 months. The clamminess of my skin, my constant sweating lasted about 15 months.
Wow.
Yeah. So and please, no offense. It may have sounded like, first off, nothing was easy for me getting sober. It was a very difficult road for me just to get physically well, which is why today I have a very healthy outlook as far as the dangers for my drug abuse or the dangers as far as to ever go back again, to walk into that fire pit. For me to visit that again, it's sheer hell. Okay. It was just very hard for me to get sober. It was very hard to feel good again, Dr. Callie. Very hard.
So how many people did you have on your team besides you, or was it just you trying to, do this on your own? Did you have support?
Okay. Yeah. First off, there was no intervention for me. At the time, I was dating a woman. I had pushed away really everyone that I loved in my life. And so, as you're probably well aware, as addicts or alcoholics, we tend to scare a lot of people. And so we become isolated. So in February of 2007, when I went into the hospital, I showed up that day just by myself with a bunch of bags packed. And my support system became, first off, a team of medical personnel that was like, what are we going to do with this guy? He's so sick. How are we going to medically treat him first off for his detox? But ultimately, from a spiritual standpoint, I fell into a group of men who knew recovery, who understood how to get clean and sober. And I just followed these men who are in South Orange County, primarily in Laguna Beach. I got a sponsor whom I love dearly today. And these men saved my life. And I'm so eternally grateful for the love, the unconditional love that these men gave me. And here's the thing, too, I want to share, is I hadn't laughed in a long time. And I was so scared walking into my first recovery meeting. And these people were laughing. They were full of life and joy. And I hadn't had that intangible thing in a very, very long time. And I wanted that. And so I latched onto these people.
So at what point did you say, I want to get out of the work I'm in and be an interventionist? When did that come?
Yeah, that's a good one. The business that I was in, I had hated for a number of years. I was really only involved in it because I was a decent sales guy and I made a pretty good living at it. As I was getting sober, as my head was clearing up, I absolutely detested the idea of putting on a nice suit, going into, my office, and that business had been destroyed. So first off, I was incapable of even employment in my first year of recovery. So that business was completely dismantled as a result of my addictions. And my physician encouraged me to start writing my story, which I did. At 18 months sober, I wrote my memoir, which is a book called Dying for Triplicate. And a master interventionist in South Orange County took me under his wing at about year 2. And this gentleman believed in me. And he said, you know what, you've got these 2 really important things that a good interventionist needs to be successful, and that's empathy and compassion. I learned a great deal from that man. And one thing led to another. Next thing you know, I am successfully orchestrating interventions on my own. And after that, my book gets out there, and then families are starting to contact me from all over the country. And then I was on my own. I had my own little business, and I've been now doing it for 8.5, 9 years on my own and enjoying every bit of it.
Wow, that's fascinating. So when you put this book out there, were you scared about putting your story out there in public?
Completely.
Did you have anybody tell you this is not a good idea? You should rethink this. You're not going to get a job in the corporate world anymore.
I love what you just said. I love that. I love what you just said. I'm an anarchist truly by nature. I could have cared less about the corporate world ever again. And I was always a risk taker. So I had it in my heart and in the silly head of mine that no matter what was going to happen, Dr. Callie, that I was going to sink or swim on my own, whether I had a hot dog stand, whether I became an interventionist or an author, it didn't really matter. It wasn't so much about finances. It was about being happy. It was about just being happy in my heart. So I was never going to return to corporate America ever again.
And then what happened to your punk band?
We still play. It took
you play
about
sober.
I freaking love it.
Wow.
I've never had so much fun in all my life. And it took about a little over a year, because I front the band and, I never thought that I could have so much fun. And the truth is I have more fun doing it sober than I ever did when I was loaded. And it's a real joy. It's an absolute joy to play with these guys. Our drummer is coming on 15 years sober, and he played with a pretty well-known punk band back in the day called JFA, and he's a wonderful man. And he and I get to hang out and joke about the old days. And I got a good support system around me.
So you basically said, I don't care about the stigma. I don't care what people are going to think about me. This is my recovery. I'm going to own it. F you world. And I'm going to see what happens.
Let's come back to that. You can say yes and no. Here's one of the things that was very difficult for me to overcome. A lot of people become very bold and very, very tough behind a keyboard. And a lot of people have their own ideas, and a lot of people can become very vicious. And this is what's funny, Dr. Callie. I don't understand people who take the time to write lengthy reviews about people. And one of the things that I struggled against most was I got caught up in the cycle of reading my own book reviews.
Oh,
and what's
boy.
funny, oh my Lord. And what's funny is, and this is the truth, I actually had to get the FBI involved. There was a competing book out there. What happened was a reader out there said something to the effect of, if any of you guys want to read a book about real pill addiction, read Todd Zalkins' book, Dying for Triplicate. She was comparing it to another guy's book, which she found was kind of a joke. And this guy took it so personally, the author of this book. He was so pissed off, he started proclaiming that I'm writing fake reviews on Amazon, which, by the way, you can't do. You can't write fake reviews. You have to have an account, okay? Next thing you know, he's threatening my mother, gets a hold of my mother, threatening to kill my mother. It got radical. And I said, well, all bets are off. There's a few things you can and can't do in this world. You threaten my mom, and you can't do that with me.
Wow.
Few things you aren't going to do. You threaten my mom, and your days are numbered in my little world, my friend. And so I made that clear. I had to call the feds. I had it recorded, his death threats. And so here's my point, is I had to back away from the public. Some people are going to be very, very mean, but for the most part, Dr. Callie, the book has helped thousands of addicts. And in fact, I recently got off of Facebook personally because, 90+% of people are really positive. I can't control what people are going to say. And so when I stay away from that, of fixating on the negative, I'm in a healthier place. So, you know what? What can I do about people who are going to talk, about me? I have to focus on helping people, okay? And stay away from the negative, toxic people. Because face to face, they're never going to say that crap to me ever. Ever.
I've learned two things about toxic people because I've been in the hot seat for going on 5 years now. Either they don't have the desire and the drive you do to put themselves out there and stay the course, and they're jealous of you, or they want to be you specifically. And they want what you have. And the easiest way, because they're a competitor, is to knock you down so they look better. So I've always said, if you're talking to somebody about me, rest assured they're talking to somebody else about you.
That is awesome what you just said. Thank you for saying that, Dr. Callie. And let me share this with you. Have you ever heard this one before? I just learned of this because I was sharing with a man in recovery about my insecurities, because I have a ton of fears and about, judgments and people who are trying to bring me down and stuff about what I'm trying to do. Let me ask you this. Have you ever heard of this one? Hurting people hurt other people.
I've heard of that.
And I think that makes a lot of sense. So meaning people who are just not, well-centered, well-balanced, or even healthy on the inside. So if you're hurting, people who are hurt and just screwed on the inside, they're going to go out and just bash people anyway. And that made sense to me.
Well, I've always said your opinion of me is none of my business, because it's not.
Right.
And if I feed into your opinion and your judgment, I won't be the best me I can be, because then it clouds me. And I think of the negative things. So I always say, if you have a negative opinion of me, that's fine. You have every right to have it. I don't want to know about it. I don't want to know what's happening. Unless it affects my bottom line or it affects me, on social media, I really don't care what you have to say. So I've come out the gate swinging with that, because I've learned a lot of things about addicts. They say they're in recovery, right? And they're not really in recovery. They're just sober or clean. They haven't changed their behavior. And I always say there's a difference. You can be clean and sober, but if you're doing and saying the same things you did in active addiction, minus the drugs and alcohol, you're not recovered. You're just not using.
It's a great point. It's a great point. In fact, that is, at the end of the day, to me, recovery is about two things. It's about change and growth. And you just hit the nail on the head with that. We have to change who we are as people, because just, for me personally, just not drinking, using isn't enough. I have to continually try my best to work on something. And I want to improve. You couldn't have said it better.
Well, it's tough too, especially when you're working with these younger kids, and I'm sure you're seeing this as well. They don't grasp recovery. They grasp, okay, I'm not doing drugs. Now I'm going to go out and make $1 million. And I'm going to do all this stuff without doing the uncomfortable growth work that we had to do to get to this point. And I want to ask you how you're dealing with that, with these younger kids that want to go from, okay, I just got out of detox and treatment yesterday. Now I'm going to own my own treatment center and save the world. But there's no growth. There's no struggle. There's no uncomfortability.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Where do I begin? Okay. One of the hardest things, one of the biggest challenges when working with anyone, and especially with the younger people, is sharing this with them, Dr. Callie, and that is, you don't know who you are yet. And the look on their faces is, what do you mean, man? I know who I am, dude. I've got 38 days,
Oh, and
it's, dude, you don't know who you are. Well, what do you mean? You've used since you were 12. You're 24 years old. Your brain has had no chance to develop emotionally. Trust me. You're just starting to get physically sober. Let's just take a break here. Let's do some work. Let's get first off physically sober. Emotional sobriety takes a bit of time. Now, when you can get someone to buy into that every now and then, and I'm sure this has been your experience too, every now and again, we get this person who totally buys into this and just says, okay, I buy in, I'll follow that. And they turn into this absolute just winner. They win because they follow that path. But for the people who struggle and don't surrender to that concept, they're going to have all of these kinks and bumps in the road with their spiritual, emotional growth, and maybe even just physical sobriety, because what do? They've got to go out and sleep with chicks. They've got to go out and, like you said, run their own little mini Betty Ford with mommy and daddy's money because they've got recovery wired and buy a couple Beamers because they've got this with their 60-day chip.
You hit the nail on the head. You said they've gotten the physical recovery, but not the emotional sobriety. And they haven't surrendered. That makes so much sense because the ego is telling them, you've done detox, you've done treatment, you've done the bare minimum of what we require. Check mark. Okay, you've won. Now you're going to go out and you're going to save the world. So they're in that pink cloud concept. And in the meantime, they're still doing stuff that their 14-year-old drug-addicted self would have them do. Sleeping with girls, posting half-naked pictures on the internet, doing all that nonsense. And they've not grasped the concept of emotional recovery. Because we don't cover that in treatment. That's not a concept. That's not something treatment centers say. We're going to talk about emotional, spiritual connections. It's not there anymore.
Yeah. In fact, I want to bounce this off you and share a recent experience I've had with a wonderful treatment center down in Orange County that I work with. And I think all treatment centers should do this. Every treatment center should completely detach all cell phone usage while you're in treatment. Do you want to know why? What's the importance anyways? You know what? Maybe a phone call to your family if you're married, or if you have a girlfriend, you get a call or two a week. Why should you be on Facebook? Why should you be taking photos of your genitals? That's going on because it is hindering your growth. Texting and doing all of these things while you're in group and all this BS, I'm telling you, in this one treatment center that I work with, they absolutely will not allow it. And what happens is the individuals actually go through a social media detox, an electronics detox, and you'll be amazed. 3 weeks, I kid you not, these people are actually becoming adults. And here's what they're doing. Get a load of this. They're actually having conversations with their necks and their faces turned up. You know what I mean? Because kids these days, their heads are turned down while they're talking because they're looking at their phone the whole time.
I completely understand that. I have a 24-year-old stepson that I'm ready to wring his neck. We'll be sitting here having dinner and he's on that phone and I embarrassed him. I'm that person. We were at the restaurant and he's on the phone texting. I said, I'm going to tell you one more time and I'm going to snatch that phone. And he kept doing it. I snatched it and I threw it in the fish tank. And he goes, oh, that was my phone. And I looked at him and I said, now you have nothing to do but talk to me. And he just stared at me. He's like, I hate you. And I'm like, I'm okay with that. My clients say that to me too. I'm totally okay with that.
Yeah, I do a lot of interventions in Orange County. And in fact, I've got one today, this evening. It's a pre-intervention. And I tell the entire family unit that I'm meeting, everyone, every single cell phone, either in your purse or put it on the counter before we even start talking.
Todd, when I'm doing it, I make them put the phones in the middle of the room upside down and stack them up.
And every now and then you get this, but there is no but. And the truth is, we are on a life-saving mission here. Nothing's more important than what we're doing. And for the most part, 95% of people understand. Every now and then you get this young person be like, well, God, no, Brian, Linda, put that thing away, or just you're gonna have to bail if you can't get off of Facebook.
Oh my goodness! Have you had the client yet where they want to put the pictures of you doing the intervention on Facebook?
Never.
I've had that.
Oh, you've got to be kidding.
I had a 21-year-old girl. I was so irritated with her. She's taking selfies in the intervention, and I kept saying, could you put the phone down? And she goes, I know why you're here. And I said, okay. And she goes, you want me to go to treatment? And I said, yeah. She goes, well, I'm going to document the whole thing so everyone can follow me to treatment. And I just looked at her and I said, is that going to get you in treatment today, posting it on Facebook? And she goes, absolutely. I said, post away. Let's go. Take some pictures and let's get in the car. I was shocked. She just wanted to document this part of her life. And I said, joked around with her and I said, well, if you're going to document it, run with it. Get sober and do something with these photos. Do something with it. Don't just post it like it's cute, like you went to Starbucks and got a mocha froca cappuccino type deal.
Wow. I have that's one for the books. The best one that I can tell you really quick, Dr. Callie, is I had this thing down in Newport Beach where it was an ex-wrestler, this young kid. He was in pretty good shape, and I'll never accept violence ever. I always tell a family, if your kid thinks he's going to be tough, he's going to hit me, I'm going to punch him. I'm going to punch him if he's going to hit me. And so this kid is not going to go to treatment. We've gone through the whole deal, and we've even gone through the consequences. He's not going to do it. His dad has had enough, and his dad is just begging him, and is begging and begging, and the kid's still not going to go. And his dad challenges his son to a wrestling match, and his son is like a state champion wrestler. This kid's pretty tough, and his dad's never wrestled in his life, right? And he challenges, and his son says, "Dad, I'm going to kill you." His dad just completely explodes and destroys his son with all of the adrenaline and all of his might, and literally puts his kid into submission.
Wow.
And the kid crying. This is something that the whole family was like, this is not happening. The kid went to treatment. He's got 2 years sober.
Oh, wow.
Stuff is flying. I mean, this is this beautiful home, and no one thought that like this wasn't going to happen. But it's one of those things where Dad turned into the Hulk and just did it, and it was amazing.
Wow,
a true A&E moment.
Well, it's been a pleasure having you on, and I wanted to thank you first for taking the time out of your day to come on. And I also want you to be able to plug everything. If you could tell the listeners where to find you, number one, if you're able to be hired for an intervention, tell us where we can find the TV show and where they can buy the book.
Absolutely. Thank you. And thank you so much, Dr. Callie, for having me on it. And just a couple of quick things. I definitely want to mention our nonprofit treatment foundation, which is called the Nowell Family Foundation, which is going to be opening in 2018. It's in Bradley Nowell's memory, dedicated to treating male musicians, men who are in the music industry suffering from opiate addiction. Check us out. Check us out at the nowellfamilyfoundation.org, and feel free to donate by going there if you can. Our film is called The Long Way Back Film and .com. Check us out there to see the trailer. It opens October 17th worldwide on Amazon and iTunes. And if any of you guys need help for an intervention, we travel all over the United States and even beyond that. We've done them in Canada and beyond that, and beyond Canada as well. If you guys need help, any of your families or loved ones, go to ToddZalkins.com or give us a call at toll-free 888-604-7370, and follow me on Instagram at Todd Zalkins. Dr. Callie, thank you so much for having me. I really enjoyed this, and I'm looking forward to having you next week at my place.
Sounds good. I'm looking forward to it. I'll be there with bells on.
Can't wait. Have a great day.
You too. And thank you for listening to Unpause Your Life with Dr. Callie, the Addictions Coach, the Addictions Academy. We have Todd the Z-Man Zalkins on, and we'll put all those links up for you so you can access him very, very easily. Have a great day, guys. Hey, everyone. Thanks again for listening. I really hope you enjoyed the show today. Head on over to iTunes and Apple Podcasts and leave a comment or review of what you think. Or contact us at 1-800-706-0318. If you want to be on our show, feel free to email or call. And if you have a topic, feel free to email or call as well.
Thanks for listening to Unpause Your Life. For show notes and more, head on over to unpauseyourlife.com.
Big shout out to recoveryinnovators.com for help producing this show. Thank you, guys.
I took a walk down the long road where they said that I shouldn't go. On my way found a reason to wake up another day. But they needed to show you all the things that you won't do. Find faith or religion. walked down the dark road where they said that I shouldn't go. I knew the dangers of flying. Now I'm so far from solid ground. But they needed to show you all the things that you won't do. Find faith or religion, but nothing to show for it. No need to escape, in love with my pain. I may be weak, but I'm alive, still alive. And I won't be bound by your mistake. No, I won't be your enemy, trapped at the gate. Bring me to life, put me to death. Just give me something that's just not so hard to believe. To believe. To believe.